Hello again, friends, and you are my friends, and welcome to a transfer special. Obviously, it broke last night that Philogene was set to be in town today, Thursday, for a medical ahead of a £20 million plus add-on move from Aston Villa. And I thought we'd get the thoughts and feelings from somebody who has seen Philogene play quite regularly last season for Hull. Before we do, don't forget, like, subscribe, get your comments, your thoughts, your feelings, your opinions into the show. If you're watching on catch-up, as I'm sure many more of you will be, please do leave your comments in our comments and I'll come back to you as soon as I can. And don't forget, we are partnered with the East Anglian Air Ambulance. If you want to help save lives and have the chance to win £1,000 every week, play the East Anglian Air Ambulance Lottery. By playing for just £1 each week, you're helping to keep those yellow helicopters flying in the sky. The East Anglian Air Ambulance Lottery creates 18 winners every week with prizes ranging from £50 to £1,000. Over 18s only. Please be gamble aware. T's and C's do apply. Gamble responsibly. Hit the link in our description for more information. Good evening, Daniel. I hope you're well. What are your thoughts on the Philogene proposed deal? I'm hoping it's going to come through any minute that we're live, but if it doesn't, it's still a suspected but prospective, if that even was a word, move from Aston Villa. But to join me is none other than, we called him this summer, old Grandpa Joe. We're going to call him Joe. He's obviously lost the Grandpa Joe tag. I don't know where he lost it, but welcome back to the platform. Joe, how you doing, my friend?
I'm all right. I haven't lost the tag. I've just, the names, it's not just on the name for the moment.
Oh, Grandpa Joe. I said all my viewers laughing all through the summer. Like it was a great name drop. But how are you? Are you well? I know you're a Hull fan. Things really have been a bit dicey, but are you well?
Yeah, really well. We had a discussion about the state of things at my football club, and I will always love talking about last season. It was one of the best seasons I've had watching Hull City since we dropped out of the Premier League. So any chance to talk about Jadon Philogene now, but I'm sure we'll touch on Liam Delap and Jacob Greaves at some point as well.
Oh, I certainly will. So obviously it broke last night. The wrong night to have an early night in my perspective, because I woke up to a WhatsApp group chats all over the shop, and I was like, what's going on here? But yes, news broke last night. Obviously, Philogene, a player we tracked in the summer, a player that we almost had over the line in the summer, but we've tracked him once again, and this time it's looking like a £20 million move with add-ons as opposed to the rumoured £18 million move in the summer. But what sort of player is Philogene? Phil Blundell in our chats, just to start you off, Joe, asks, is Philogene better than Amari Hutchinson, just for example?
Ooh, that's a really tough question, and it's one I'm going to avoid for now, but I will come back to Phil Blundell. Do not worry. With Jadon Philogene, you're getting a player who has an extremely high ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
And you're getting a player who Liam Rosenior described him when he signed. If I can find the exact quote whilst we're live now, I will. But he described him as the sort of player who will get bums off seats.
Okay. That's exciting.
That's exactly what Jadon Philogene does. I think I've got the quote here now. Here we go. Liam Rosenior, our manager at the time, said he's got so much potential and completely fits into the way that we play. Comparing Rosenior's style with us last year to McKenna's style with Ipswich, there's a lot of possession in that, so he should fit in fairly well. With that, he's got obvious natural ability, can go one for one, and he's someone who can get fans off their seats. What's exciting for us, this is a year ago, is he hasn't scratched the surface of his potential yet. He's someone with a lot to learn and improve on, and I'm delighted he's going to do it here at this club. Potentially, we've got a player on our hands who can play at the very top level. He's ambitious to get there, and he's chosen us to help him on this journey. We helped him. He went back to Villa, which for me was a bit of a strange career move when you think about it, but it's a chapter in his career that's now closed. And, well, I think, to be honest, Villa only bought him so no one else could. And they still sort of had that on him, but he's not got the game time that he wanted or they wanted there. He's not really at the sort of level for fighting for top four and in the Champions League yet, let's be honest. So dropping a bit further down the Premier League is the move we all expected him to have in the summer anyway. We knew Aston Villa had a buyback, but that was only active if we were in the same division, we thought. But they also had a first refusal clause in there, which we didn't know about until Ipswich Town made a bid and then Aston Villa decided to match it. So I've seen a comment from Dan Bradish that where he'll fit into the new 3-5 back system, which I've seen Ipswich have adopted for now. Can he play right wing back or even one of the two behind Delap? I think as a more advanced one of the two behind Delap, I think he's capable. I think wing back, you're asking too much of him there. I think he's not a defensive player. He's a flair player. He's a player who will try the unthinkable because he thinks he can pull it off. He was the first player to have a championship goal nominated for a Pushkas Award because
yes,
he decided, you know what, I've got a square ball on here to Nowhere, Ohio, but I'm just going to do a little cutback, body feint, and then Rabona it from the byline and try and get it in, which he did. It got nominated for the Pushkas Award, but didn't get nominated for EFL Goal of the Month for February.
Make it make sense.
Make it make sense, exactly. But, I can remember at Birmingham away, he can go on these just ridiculous runs where I think Twine played him the ball. Somehow, when he got it on the left flank, he got right in between two Birmingham players who were closing him down. He just put the ball through, somehow got his body in there. It looked like there was space between them for an extra player. But he did it. And he had a bit of an injury last year against QPR. He picked it up in the December and he didn't come back until the February. And the first game back against Millwall, we win it 1-0 thanks to an early Jaden Philogene goal early on. And you think, oh my God, this guy's back. It was a fantastic goal that he scored. But then because in the January we'd had this, the owner had backed Liam Rosenior thinking, right, if I give him the players here, we can get in the Premier League. But we ended up signing 7. And you sign 7 players in January when you've got a settled squad. It's already it's going to be tough to bed them all in, especially when one of them is an ancient Billy Sharp who can't run anymore. One's a goalkeeper who we didn't really need and never played. And Giles came in January. Ohio came in. The only one that really worked immediately at the time was Fabio Carvalho. And this is still possibly the only one you can justify the price tag for, apart from Panda. In this second half of his first calendar year in this season, he's been our player of the year in goal. Anyway, tangent. Back to the point. We brought Anas Zaroury in on loan from Burnley in January. And that meant to get the best out of Zaroury, playing in his natural position on the left, Rosenior moved Philogene to the right, and he wasn't the same player on the right.
Okay.
We sabotaged ourselves, really, by bringing Zaroury in. If we wanted to bring a winger in from Burnley, we were linked with 2. We should have not gone for Zaroury and went and pushed for the other one in Manuel Benson because he was a right winger. But we went for Zaroury. We were all really happy with the signing, thinking, all right, Zaroury on the right, Philogene on the left. But it came very, very clear very quickly that Zaroury on the right wasn't going to work. So thus Philogene had to move over to the right, and that limited him. So if you're going to get the best out of him, he's got to be playing on the left side. We never saw him play central, and that was a suggestion that was further up as one of the two behind Delap, which could work. We never saw it, but I think Jaden's got the quality to play there. If you get him finding space, and he's good with the ball in tight areas as well. So I'm no doubt he could do that. But yeah, the right flank didn't work for him. The left side, very, very much his strongest side if you're going to play him as a winger.
So it didn't work for him in that period, or are you saying he's just a stronger player on the left for his tools that he's got to work with in terms of ability to beat a man, drop the shoulder, because some players are a left-sided player because they can go to the byline, they can drop it in and then obviously curl it with their right, etc. Some go to the right. What are you saying in terms of it didn't work? Are you saying if you want to get the best out of him on the left and only the left, is that what you're saying?
Well, he still scored goals for us on the right, but he was nowhere near as effective in the games. And I mean, it can't have helped the fact we didn't have a proper striker either. And we were talking about Liam Delap before the show, and you said about how he wasn't exactly prolific. But what Liam Delap brought to our team was so much more than goals. And with the players we brought, if Liam Delap had been fit in that second half of the season, I have no doubt that we'd have got in the playoffs. Not a single bit of doubt in my mind, because Liam Delap, he'd have thrived off Carvalho and Abdushamir, who came in and played well. Well, another thing that happened was when Zaroury got injured, Philogene got put back on the left and Abdushamir came in on the right. And that was when we started seeing more of Philogene in games again. Against Cardiff, I think he scored twice.
So he's more influential on that left-hand side.
Yeah.
Is there a particular reason why you think he's more influential on that left-hand side? Well, you know, what about that player makes him more influential on the left-hand side from a fan's perspective?
He loves a cut-in. He loves a cut-in from that left flank onto his stronger right foot, and he can make stuff happen. Excellent.
It's an exciting player. Can take a full, as I was saying earlier about some players preferring a side, can take a fullback to the byline. He's got that ability in his locker, but equally he's just as happy if the fullback shows in the byline to come inside and make magic with that right foot, which is what makes modern wingers so much more deadly than perhaps some decades back where it was a one-dimensional
wingers, where it was about getting crosses in with your left foot on the left, right foot on the right.
Yeah, absolutely. And how was his link with Delap? You know, obviously we've got a couple of old boys. We'll go through those in a second. But in terms of player connection, how did Philogene and Delap work with each other?
It goes for the whole group last year. There was such a togetherness, which we've lacked for the first half of this year under Tim Walter, but it's starting to build again under Ruben Sayers. The whole team had a real togetherness, and they weren't just teammates. They were friends off the pitch as well. And it was an ethos that was built over time, over a few years at the club, dating back to when Grant McCann was manager. When he came in 2019, even though results weren't there, especially for that second half of the season, when we eventually got relegated from the Championship and down to League One, he still retained the support of the players, because there was something bigger than that they were working for, if you get what I'm trying to say. And that togetherness, players, managers, whatever, we had so many incomings in the owner's first summer transfer window, but that seemed to stay together. And then Rosenior rebuilt that totally with a different group of players, and they all gelled and got on together very quickly. Like I saw a video from someone at the end of the season when the players had come back to Hull. Jacob Greaves and Liam Delap were on a night out. Just they've come back.
A real bond, a real
bond between that group. And Delap, even though he was only on loan, was a key part of that. Jayden, only there for a year, was a key part of that. And on a match day, Jayden was a very different character to what he was on a non-match day. Like, I'm fortunate enough to have had the opportunity to be around the training ground a fair bit, and Jayden's sort of demeanour there was different on a match day. Before a game on a match day, he was sort of, right, I'm focused. There's people asking me for pictures or whatever. I'm just going to go with it. And then I'm going to get inside. But my head he was focused. But at the training ground, he was a very, very different character when you saw him there. He was much more like bubbly, much more like warm. I said when I featured here on the summer that I've known Jacob Greaves for years and he's a top lad. Liam Delap was as well. But yeah, it was a real just sort of good group of lads. And yeah, the link between the three of them, the whole team was really, really strong. And England under 21s played Netherlands under 21s earlier in the year. Coming back to this sort of squad togetherness we had. Noah Ohio, Dutch underage international, who we had last year, he posted a picture of him and Jayden Philogene together on his profile. He put the caption of it something like MKM, back where it all started, and it just sort of we had something so good, yet we trashed it so quickly. And there's pictures at the end of the game of when they're all shaking hands. There's Liam Delap, Jayden Philogene, Noah Ohio, and Tyler Morton, all just sort of stood as a four talking, and it's like, oh man. We had
It
such
can happen. It can happen. Trust us, as town fans, we've been there. It can happen, but it can also recover overnight, without really blinking. And you're thinking, where have we come from in such? Well, we know that we've had back-to-back promotions, and in terms of Philogene, I've got a couple of questions, and obviously I'll get your thoughts on Delap and Greaves, and one of them is obviously we have changed formation recently, and some of the chat mentioned that. But one of the things that sort of comes out to my mind is we still very much play with 2 inverted 10s, so we still give license to Leif Davis, particularly down that left side, and tuck in our left 10. So they're not playing wide, they're playing inverted, allowing Leif that space. Does that sound like something that Philogene, on either the left or right inverted 10, can really come in and thrive on? Or is he, because we signed Jack Clark, and the Sunderland fan we had in the summer said he's a chalk on the boots kind of winger. You need him out wide. That's where he thrives. And we've barely seen him with that.
Yeah.
What about Philogene? Could he do that inverted 10 role, really well?
I've not seen him do it. We only ever played him wide, but it strikes me as the sort of thing he can do. If he's off the left, slightly inside already, that benefits him in terms of getting that ball onto his right foot and doing something with it. It benefits him as being closer to goal in a sense, to work some magic. And if he's got an option overlapping, we struggled at left back last year, really struggled. And I feel like if Jadon's got someone overlapping like Davis, he'd hugely benefit from that. And if we look sort of on the right side, I think Amari Hutchinson he's the one playing there at the moment, isn't he?
He is out for a few weeks injured, but that's normally where he sort of fits in at the moment, or just behind the 10. You've got Wes Burns, etc. At that right side, the winger is allowed a little bit more freedom to go out wide, because the right wing back is not genuinely a threat in the same way Davis is for us.
Yeah. So you definitely you don't want to experiment with Amari left and the Philogene the right of those two 10s. It needs to be exactly like,
okay,
yeah, Hutchinson right, Philogene left. But he strikes me as the sort of player who could do that. I've not seen him do it when he played for us, because that's not the way we played under Rosenior. But I think
he's got the tools to do it, is what you're saying. You've not seen it, but you think he's got the tools in which to do it.
He's definitely got the ability to do it. Definitely.
Another question is, obviously, it was reportedly 18 million in the summer before Aston Villa invoked whatever clause they invoked. It's now reportedly 20 million plus add-ons. James in our chat says, good signing, but 20 million is too high for his liking. What are your thoughts on the fee of being 20 million plus add-ons, if that is the correct fee? It'll probably, in all honesty, be undisclosed when it's announced. But if that's the fee, what do you think?
Well, my main thoughts on the fee are that's the minimum we should have got for Jadon Philogene in the summer.
Right.
But, well, the owner said in April there was an acceptance that we had to be promoted to keep Jadon Philogene, Jacob Greaves, to have any chance of getting Liam Delap back. We didn't, and thus what's happened has happened. The same goes for Fabio Carvalho, Tyler Morton, all the loanees apart from Zaruri, basically. And the owner said he would not sell Philogene or Greaves for any less than 30 million euros, he said in this interview, which equates to about 25 million quid.
Yeah.
We sold Greaves for 18 and Philogene for 18, but with Villa's 4D chess sell-on clause, that got them a discount, and they actually only got him for 13. So they've made 8 million profit in half a year of hardly playing football, whereas we've made 8 million profit in a full season of being arguably our best player.
So Villa are really playing a different game to all of us, because they're clearly head and shoulders above us all.
Yeah, Villa have got themselves 2 very good deals there. And Philogene, like I said in the summer, 20 million is about what he was worth. Greaves, I mean, I think if you negotiated hard enough, you could have got 30 million for each of them, to be fair, which is mental to think we got, in the end, just about that for the pair of them.
Yeah. Does seem a little bit unfair. But on Greaves, you say you've known him for years. You're fortunate enough to be around him, around the training ground. You called him a future England international in the summer. He's been in and out of the lineup. From your perspective, how has his season gone so far?
Well, I spoke to I spoke to Jacob's dad not too long ago, and Mark, ex-Hull City player, local guy, top bloke. He said that Jacob had been out injured, and that had he wanted to be back for the Man United game, he said, but that clearly didn't happen, and he's only just working his way back into the team now. But before his injury, I thought his start, from what I saw of it, was incredible. I watched the full opening game of the season against Liverpool, and you see Jacob Greaves there, and it brings me back to how did we not get more than 20 million for him? Yeah. What were we doing when he's doing that and playing that well? But yeah, like I said,
he's some player. I will, Joe. He is a very good player. He's great on the ball. He's had a couple of moments, like any player stepping up.
Big injury that he's had, really. There was one where he was out for 2 or 3 weeks a couple of seasons ago, but that's the first sort of big injury that he's had. And the sort of next big prospect we've got coming through the academy, another son of a Hull City cult hero legend, actually, Stan Ashby, son of former captain Ian. I was talking to one of my mates today about just how much good it would have done Jacob Greaves going out to League Two when he was 18. And you can tell that's benefited him in the long run, playing a way of football that isn't the sort of tippy-tappy stuff necessarily that gets played in the Premier League and the Championship every week now. It was, boggy pitches. It was the COVID season, so it got curtailed halfway through, and then it was a playoff sort of run at the end that they were all brought back for, and for Cheltenham. And you can tell that's benefited him, and playing a season in League One for us has benefited him. And we need to get Stan Ashby out doing the same sort of things. He's out on loan in the National League North at the minute, which is a good first step. It's a good level to go into. But yeah, that definitely benefited Jacob in the long run. And I think you're seeing that now in the fact he's a Premier League player, and he held his own against Liverpool, and he's coming and done well. He's impressed you all. And that comes from EFL loans. They're so important. And we took a risk plugging him straight in the team when we got relegated from the Championship down to League One. It worked. Definitely worked. Wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah, very much so. And as I say, he's really taken to it. He's had maybe two. One at Palace where his feet got caught underneath him at home to Palace.
I know which one you mean, yeah.
Where Jean-Philippe Matete sort of too easily shrugged him off, if you like. And then, of course, Aston Villa, where it was a clearance across your box.
That's the one as well, yeah.
Yeah, and that's it. But those are learning curves at every level, particularly at the elite level. And lastly, of course, I said to you before we started, nobody really, probably, if they're being honest, would have, I think it would have seen this Delap emerging this early in his Premier League debut campaign. But are you surprised? Is this the player you fully thought? Is it quicker than before than you thought? Tell us about Delap from your perspective, Joe.
I thought last season, both of the two players that were brought in with the headlines, Liam Delap and Jadon Philogene, I thought they've both got the ability to play for England. But I thought Delap would get there before Philogene. And I think I'm going to be proved right when it comes to the March international break. Because, oh my goodness me, Liam Delap. He is phenomenal. He's absolutely unreal. Like, we described him last year as, like, it's a silly comparison on the surface, but we described him as like Haaland for us, in the sense that he's big, he's powerful, but he's also pacey and a threat in the air if you need him to be. And the way he can sort of like push through players and bundle through them, we missed that in the second half of the season. We missed a striker in the second half of the season. And yeah, had Liam Delap been fit in the second half of last year and not had an injury on New Year's Day against Sheffield Wednesday at Hillsborough, it could have been so different. And, Hull City fans watching this would say, Joe, why are you dwelling on it again? But that's the whole purpose of me being here, to talk about the players you guys have got from us last season. I mean, if you're interested in any Hull City players going, just on the off chance they're all right, we've got Durkan Sinek, who we signed for £4 million, who's played 13 games in 3 years, if you want him, I'd pay you to take him off our hands, to be honest. We've got a lot of dross at the minute.
We've been there though, Joe, as a club. Trust me, we have been there. I've done podcasts. You go through the archives, saying very similar things about my football club, and I never thought I'd be sat in this position. And that's why I said there when you saw at Delap and his hours, because I sometimes have to say it out loud just to remind myself that he's an Ipswich Town player, and it's a privilege to watch him. No, it's a privilege to watch him. It's a privilege to do shows like this today, where you're talking about a player being signed for, £20 million. A long time ago, we were celebrating a free transfer signing as if we'd won the lottery. And you get some good free transfers.
But the free transfers, aren't they? Even when you get into the
absolutely,
if you can get yourself a little freebie bargain every now and then.
But we were talking free transfers that perhaps haven't played for a while, coming back from injury, and you're like, oh, if they're the player they were, it's great, and if they're not, we've all been there as a football club, but it's a real privilege to watch these two boys. Right?
A big question for us last year was Liam Delap coming back from injury. Can we expect him to be on it straight away? He came back, and he was the same player as before, and it's not affected him long term.
No.
Look at how he's playing for you. That's all I need to say on Liam Delap. He always was a talent, and his goal scoring record for us didn't tell the full story because he brought so much more to the team, and he'd have thrived if he was fit for that full half a season when we had the complete team. Giles at left back, because Giles in his early days for Hull City put so many crosses in that were just begging for a Liam Delap to be there and get on the end of. Link up with Fabio Carvalho. We didn't see enough of that with Delap's injury. Seri, when he came back from AFCON, was full of confidence. Tyler Morton was fully settled. Yeah, Liam Delap for us he was that final piece of the puzzle that we lacked to push us into the playoffs last year. And yeah, like Colin says there, absolute quality striker. Sums him up perfect. You've got our 3 best players from last year, and the Premier League was where they were always destined to be. Yeah,
and I think his transfer fee set many fans in the summer questioning, is that too, a little bit too much? Is that bargain for money? I think you look at that fee, you look at Philogene's fee, if you've got any question marks, like some in our chat did earlier, and sometimes the potential is there, and it takes the right coach, the right environment, the right setup, the right whatever it may be to unearth it. And finally, as we close,
well, just to jump on that quickly,
yeah, of course,
a lot of comparisons can be made between Kieran McKenna and Liam Rosenior. Young coach, well respected in the game, picked up a team that was struggling and completely turned the fortunes around. McKenna's was more. Well, it was a lot bigger than Rosenior's was, the turnaround. But, there's a comparison that can be made there. Young British coaches, really well respected in the game when they were both at Hull City and Ipswich, respectively. And Philogene thrived under Liam Rosenior. So I get the feeling, because McKenna's good man management, like I said, possession-based football still. And I think Philogene will do very well in that sort of environment again. And it's with his mates as well, isn't it? His mates, like I mentioned earlier, with his mates again.
And that's the bonus, isn't it? When a new player arrives, you don't know anybody normally. It's a new town. It's a new house you're living in, or apartment, or wherever it may be. It's brand new. Whereas coming here for him, he's going to have some friends around him that are going to help him, ease into the squad, ease into life in the IP postcode seamlessly, which can't be understated either. That's going to really be helpful, and we need it, because every point is a big point at this stage for us, and there's not really that chance to sort of take to it slowly. And as such, that is my last question, Joe. As somebody who watches football, and knows a lot about football from the outside looking in, can Town survive, in your opinion, this season?
Yeah, I think so. I said it at the start of the season that that Ipswich, out of the 3 promoted teams, would be the most likely to stay up. And just inside the relegation zone at the minute, you're above Leicester and Southampton, who also went up significantly above Southampton. And Everton just sacked Sean Dyche today.
They did.
Wolves, I'm not particularly impressed with them, to be honest. And you never know where Manchester United could end up, because it's funny to beat them with that relegation battle stick. But no, I think if you put it this way, if you are to go down, I think Liam Delap moves on, which is a shame.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, even if we do stay up, I think there's a question mark whether we probably will move on anyway.
But I think you've got a very, very good chance of staying in the league, because I don't think Wolves aren't a team to write home about. And if we're looking at where the relegation zone is at the minute and how tight it is, it's like the Championship again, the Premier League, I suppose, this year. I mean, it's a couple of points and then your fortunes are turned round. It's, 5 points to Crystal Palace in 15th?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Which, funnily enough, had some VAR gone for us, or a couple of the games where we were leading, or like Brentford, for example, that's 1 point. That would be 4 points to 15th. We should have beaten Leicester. VAR, for many fans' opinions, went against us and robbed us that day. That's 2 extra points. You're right. It's not that far from being okay, and that's the margin. We're falling a little bit short of it first half, but I agree. I do think there's a little bit more about us to come, and I wish you all the best with yours. Sorry.
Is there cause for concern being in the relegation zone? Yes, absolutely. But is there also cause to be optimistic? Yeah, it's like with us. You were just going to talk about our relegation scrap there. It's amazing how one game against Preston, you can sort of sit there and think, yeah, there's absolutely no quality in this whatsoever. It's a season in League One could do us some good. But then you put in a performance like we did against Leeds, 3-3, take the lead, get put back to 3-1, then we fight back late, 82nd minute and 89th minute, and we end up taking a point out of top of the league. And with a couple of January additions to strengthen the squad, especially up front, and all of a sudden you think, right, we've got enough to stay up here. We just need to be consistent. And
it's amazing what one result does, isn't it, as well, Joe? Sorry to cut across you. In that momentum swing, in that fan swing as well. Before Chelsea, I think many Town fans were almost writing us off to an extent. One win against Chelsea, a big win, unexpected win, but it's a win. And suddenly that momentum swings back, and then you go and get a result against Fulham. Maybe should have won that game, but a point on the road against Fulham in their position is never a bad point at this point. And that momentum suddenly swings back, and the feeling on the terraces changes, and the feeling around the club starts to change, because the feeling on the terraces starts to change. That makes sense. And it's amazing what 1 or 2 games in football can do for you like that.
It's players' confidence as well, isn't it?
All the things we spoke about this evening: Philogene, Delap, and Greaves. Good luck in your fight to stay in the Championship, and hopefully speak to you again very soon.
I'm sure you will. Thank you.
Look after yourself, Joe. To everyone watching, thank you for watching. Get your comments in. If you're watching on catch up, thank you for your live comments. Don't forget we are live after the rest of the Rovers game. So join us over the weekend. But until next time, or another signing, still need that striker. And who knows what's around the corner. But take care. God bless. All the best.